You know, it's July 3rd, and it's been one hell of a day.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, HSA's radio network. Luke Robinson, that's me, and Bama Online's Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by Gametime, and man, do we have a lot of stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk about Ty Simpson in the third segment. We're going to talk about a couple of decommitments in the second segment, but I think we're going to start off with the biggest news of the day, which is Justin Hill from Ohio choosing Alabama over Ohio State. This was huge news. Look, I don't want to try and oversell it. I mean, I don't think this is necessarily the same as, Deshaun Hand picking Alabama when he did. You know, maybe not quite as big in terms of a ranking scenario, but I think this is a statement. I do. I feel like, Alabama goes into Ohio and plucks away a fantastic player that clearly Ohio State wanted. And he's one of the top 50, if not top 40 players in this class. And Alabama went and got him. Yes, Ohio State's coming to Alabama and got Naheem Alford. They came, and I guess if you want to say they got Zion Grady, that's fine too. But I think Alabama and Auburn people may say, well, we didn't pursue him quite as hard. But I think Naheem Alford is certainly very valid. But Alabama, Ohio State fired a shot. Alabama fired one back. Pretty big one, if you ask me.
It's just huge. I mean, this is really big. I mean, Kalen DeBoer and his staff have really impressed me, from when they got here to what they had done in recruiting up until today. But today they amazed me. It's not impressive. It's amazing that they could land Justin Hill, an Ohio State backyard kid that Ohio State wanted really badly. And let me tell you, I mean, I'm a Justin Hill, fanboy. I mean, it's the best way to put it. I mean, I of all the kids I've seen on tape in this cycle, I would put him in the top group. I mean, I would have said that this has nothing to do with the fact he chose Alabama over Ohio State. I've said the same thing all along. I would have said the same thing had he gone with Ohio State. And frankly, we woke up this morning, we weren't sure what he would do. At BOL, we got a good batting average with the predictions. There was not an official prediction. It wasn't for Ohio State. It was just conflicting and weren't sure. And then once he made the announcement and found out later that he didn't even tell his parents until the announcement, you understand why BOL, was a little hesitant to make a call here, because
did Alabama know? Do you think like at least one coach at Bama did? I mean, I guess if an assistant coach knew, you got to think Kalen DeBoer would know too, because Kalen would be like, yeah, I need to know if we're getting this dude. But do you think that I know Christian Robinson did a fantastic job helping here. So I'm wondering, do you think he told Christian in advance and he was like, look, I'm not even telling my parents, you cannot breathe a word?
I would guess yes, but I don't know that. And again, this was hard for us at BOL to get intel on. It was difficult. Now, Chad Simmons had predicted, hey, this is going to be Alabama. Steve Wiltfong had said, hey, I think this is Alabama at the end. So it's not like on three didn't have, and that's why, Luke and I, we text, before shows, and we got up this morning. It was like, we don't know, Luke and I was like, well, we don't know. But, who knows? We don't know. And then just minutes before the announcement, we're like, hey, it's looking better for Alabama, and it could happen. And that's when we're like, hey, if this is Alabama, let's do a show later, because it's the July 4th holiday. We weren't sure whether we're going to do a show, and Luke's on a trip, and I was on a trip, and I'm just back, and Luke's still not back. But point being, this was up in the air. This was not something we expected. Several of the other commitments in this cycle, we knew were coming, that there had been a BOL prediction, and Luke and I talked it up. And but this one we weren't sure on. But boy, when it happened, it's big. I'm going to go ahead and invoke this name just to show how high I am on him. This is not my comp. It's not my comp. But when you watch Justin Hill, I want you to think back to Derek Thomas. And by that, I mean, Derek Thomas was at this point in his life, when Derek Thomas was coming out of high school, he was about 6'2", 6'3", 210. Okay. He was a stand-up outside linebacker. He wasn't a hand on the ground defensive end. He was a pure linebacker. They used to play the sport a little differently back then. Derek was more like a blitzing linebacker than a hand on the ground Myles Garrett defensive end. Justin Hill plays the position like Derek Thomas does. And when he gets after the quarterback, he is a blur. He's like a 4-4 sprinter to the quarterback. And boy, he is disruptive. He knocks a ball out half the time because he's back there so fast. And again, I'm not saying that's my comp. I'm not that crazy. But I'm just saying, put on the huddle tape, have Derek Thomas in your mind, you older folks like me and Luke that can remember Derek Thomas. And you will see, I can at least see what Jimmy's talking about there. He's not completely mad. But yeah, great prospect. Great kid, too. Super intangibles. Mom loved Alabama. She would have committed to Alabama months ago. She loved Alabama. And boy, you beat Ohio State in their backyard for a kid of this magnitude. Again, Kalen DeBoer and his staff have been impressive to this point, Luke. But now I'm officially amazed.
It's really something. And again, don't want to oversell it and make it seem like it's the biggest thing that's ever happened, but it's a big deal. And don't let anybody tell you differently. I think the other thing that was crucial, and if you watch there was a video that came out. I retweeted it. If you go to LS Robinson 21, you want to see the actual video because we can't show it here. But if you want to go see that video, he's being interviewed and he alludes to the fact, I don't even know if he alludes to it. He actually flat out says it, that he was getting offers upping the NIL value or offer until an hour before he left to go make the announcement. And the reason that was kind of crucial, it sounds like to me, he was taking the calls or whatever, because coaches are still calling and, you still take the call. You don't just shut your phone completely down. And I'm assuming that these calls were coming in from Ohio State. I'm not trying to say Ohio State
other
is
places
illegal. because they're not. I assume Alabama does this as well. But I just find it interesting that this is a kid that was like, they upped their offer and I still want to go to Bama. And
it's a great insight for people and to know what kind of enormous pressure these kids 17, by the way, turned 17 today. 17 today. I think today is his birthday. Yeah. 17. Either turned 17 today or yesterday. But anyway, this kid is 17 years old. And that's the kind of pressure that they're under. And it's why, thank goodness, they have agents. They're allowed to have agents now. And it's a good thing because they need, an adult, professional adult needs an agent in these situations. So certainly a 17-year-old does. And it's just crazy, the system we have now and what these kids are under. But hey, he picked Alabama. Alabama's where he wants to go. And Alabama is where he's going. Fantastic. Second Wolf. Dawson Merritt's also going to play Wolf, and another fantastic project. Boy, this is as too good of outside linebackers as Alabama's gotten in a single class, and this train just keeps rolling along. I think still ranked number 2. But just think of how closer we are now. Add Justin Hill to Ohio State, they increase their lead. Put him at Alabama, we've closed the gap. With A.K. Deere still out there, Caleb Cunningham still out there, Ty Haywood still out there. Boy, this DeBoer staff's pretty good, right?
They're awesome. They're not infallible, though, because Alabama did lose a couple of commitments today. But Jimmy and I are going to tell you why we're not so sure that's a horrible thing. But right now, I'm going to tell you about Gametime. Gametime, I've said it a million times. It's the only live read I do that I don't look at any of the script. Now, they may hate me for that. They may. But I feel like it's the best way to do it. You know what, Jimmy? People may listen to us for a lot of reasons. They may listen to us for our flubs, for my mutes, for whatever, for our terrible technical difficulties at times, or they may listen to us because they find us entertaining for whatever reason. But I think one of the reasons they listen to it is because we are pretty genuine on here. I don't think we blow smoke and say everybody's the best or everybody's the worst or whatever it is. And we don't always say our rivals are wrong and that we're always.
It's the first time I've invoked Derek Thomas's name in a comp. Keep that in mind. I go too far, but that was a first.
So here's my point about that, about being genuine, that I'm being genuine when I tell you I use Gametime. This isn't me messing around. This isn't me telling you something that I didn't do. I used it. I loved it. It's awesome. Get the app. I'm going to use it again for the Wisconsin game coming up. I got to get my tickets soon. I need to probably go ahead and do it. I had a listener email me, and same listener that sent us like a $10 Starbucks card, which I loved. It was awesome. I love Starbucks. And she said, hey, I need some suggestions for the Wisconsin game. I said, the best suggestion I can give you is going to Game Time. I was like, I don't have a secret way to get tickets. I mean, occasionally I can get good tickets at home games because I do know people with boxes and things, and that's great. But for the most part, I need to get tickets like everybody else. And so I want to get them on Game Time. Game Time is so awesome. And you want to go download that app and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first order. I'm telling you, I've used it for MLB, used it for World Series, used it for college baseball, college basketball, college football, NFL, all that stuff. NBA, everything. Go check it out. Go download the Game Time app today. You will love it. I got a feeling Zach's going to kill me for like making that live read the way I do, but
it is genuine. And by the way, I use Game Time myself, and I could not more highly recommend it. I'm a concert guy. Luke uses it for sporting events. I've been using it for concerts, and let me tell you, when there's a concert up the road, when you're in Tuscaloosa and there's concerts, maybe it's a concert I'm not like super interested in, but I can monitor Game Time. I can monitor the app and go, you know what? If that gets down to $10, we can do worse things than spend $10 and go watch the show, right? Because it's right up the road. So I use Game Time too, and I love it. It's very convenient.
So Alabama did lose 2 commitments today, Zamir Smith and Miles Johnson. Okay, one we thought all along. I mean, right. For a while, the Miles Johnson thing, and I don't mean this as a shot at the kid or anything like that, but it got to the point where I'd look at the commitment list and I'd go, wait a minute, he's still on there? We hadn't decommitted yet? Like, right. You and I have not considered him a commitment for a long time. I bet you most people that follow Alabama recruiting like us have not considered him a commitment for a long time. But, you know, you can't, as you said off air, you can't take him off the list until he if you're with BOL or whomever, until he officially decommits. It just doesn't make, it's not good sense. And it's really probably an insult if you guys do it. Yeah. If we believe it, it's one thing. But if you do it officially without him decommitting, he's probably like, I didn't decommit. And the one time you do it and you're wrong, you will never get the credibility.
That's exactly right. I mean, you can only report the public information. I mean, in terms of like those commitment lists, it's public. You know, these kids are publicly committed that are on these lists. If you're taking kids off because you're like, hey, I don't think he's going to sign here. That's my intel is he's not actually going to be part of this class. Then, okay, if you're going to do it that way, then now you might as well start putting private commitments up on the board. Yep. And you can't do that. So, but that's why, even though BOL, we've it's been said by our recruiting department over there, BOL, that we didn't expect Miles Johnson to be in this class. And this is why, look, this isn't rocket science so much. Miles was a camp offer. That's why he was offered, because of his performance in camp. That camp was a Nick Saban camp with Nick Saban's staff, not Kalen DeBoer, not Courtney Morgan, not Kane Womack. It was Nick Saban, his staff. That's who offered him, and then he committed, right? Well, then maybe they'd have kept him if they could have said, well, this kid committed to Saban. There's probably something to him. Let's watch his junior tape. But guess what? There is no junior tape because, unfortunately, Miles tore his ACL and missed his whole junior year. So the DeBoer staff hadn't seen him in camp, hadn't seen him play his junior year. So they're like, probably, they're like, we're going to have to see you perform in camp, but he can't this summer. He's still recovering from the ACL. So it's like, well, let's watch some senior tape. Meanwhile, by the way, they've already taken 4 inside linebackers that they're really high on. So it was kind of obvious this wasn't going to happen. But that's not to say there's not a good relationship there. And let's see what happens down the road. But as of right now, it appears Miles will land on his feet and play for the Florida Gators. And I'm happy for the kid. That's a great program in the SEC. It's big-time football. And let's see how he does there. We'll be pulling for him. He's an in-state kid and just really didn't have the opportunity at Alabama here under the new staff. I'm sure this is a great rant that's on mute. And I could tell from the look on Luke's face that we missed out there because he had some points. He was emphatic.
That's why
emphatic.
I will tell you something. there is something. That's why, like, when I go on mute, it is different than most people going on mute. Because when some people go on mute and they just, you're like, I don't know if he would have been talking or not. With me and all my facial expressions, I'm over here doing like the, what was the
Quack.
Bengals walk like an Egyptian video, like doing all this stuff. But anyway, what I was saying was we want him to have a scholarship. We want Miles Johnson to go somewhere and flourish. I believe that with all my heart. I'm an AHSA Radio Network guy. I want Alabama kids to go get scholarships and do their thing. I don't necessarily always want them to do it at the University of Alabama because I want what's best for the University of Alabama as well. I think you can do both things. I'm not saying I do not wish any ill will at all towards Miles Johnson. Don't want that at all. I want him to go flourish wherever he goes. And it'd be fine with me if for whatever reason we regretted that he wasn't in this class. That'd be fine with me. But at this moment, if you're asking me, Luke, would you rather have him in this class or not in this class? I would say I will take my chances trying to sign somebody more highly ranked.
Yeah. And I don't root against anyone, but I'm using this as an example because Miles is going to Florida. There's another linebacker at Florida that's from the state of Alabama, Shamar James. Alabama wanted Shamar. They recruited him like Florida just flat out beat Alabama. Shamar chose Florida at that time and has been at Florida and doing well. But it's okay if you don't root for him. Alabama's like, we want you. And he's like, no, thanks. I'll play for Florida. And you're like, well, okay, then to heck with you, so it's okay. But Miles, he didn't have that situation. Miles is like, well, Florida, Florida's offering me a spot. I'm going to go to Florida. So for those who want to have different opinions about guys that play for other teams, that's just two very different stories. And I think a reason to root for Miles for sure and kind of be iffy on Shamar. Now, myself, I'm just not really much of a hater. So I'm fine with Shamar doing well. We're a little bit better football program than Florida right now.
Well, let's go to the next decommitment. That's Zamir
real
Smith.
Quickly.
Yeah, Zamir Smith.
Totally different situation. Now, Zamir, this is a different situation. He had committed to the DeBoer staff. But look, a couple things here. He's from Maryland. Maryland's recruited him very hard. He went and took a visit to Maryland. He likes Maryland a lot. At the same time, Alabama has two other cornerback commitments from higher rated, more highly regarded kids. This is sort of one of those mutual things where Zamir's like, I think I'm going to get a better shot to play at home for a program I really like. And Alabama's like, well, we do have Dejon Lee and Chuck McDonald, so we'll be fine. And so this is, I'm going to call it mutual, but there's no hard feelings here at all. This is fine for both parties, and no one needs to look at it like Alabama lost a guy they were busting to get. No. Alabama cut him. No. Just, hey, this made a lot of sense for both parties, and I think Zamir is going to do really well at Maryland. That's Coach Locke's. More Alabama things to root for here, right?
To invoke my inner Seinfeld, whatever, and have another Seinfeld analogy. It's like when Jerry finally met, who's that comedian? I really don't like her that much. Don't find her very funny, but it's the one that he dated that he just absolutely loved and thought he was going to get married to her. She saved him from getting in a car accident.
Was it Sarah Silverman?
It is. No, it's not Sarah. Is it Sarah Silverman? It's not Sarah Silverman.
Dark haired.
It's dark haired, but that's not Sarah Silverman.
Kathy Griffin?
No, not Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin was
Who else was it?
redheaded.
Yeah.
Okay. Sarah Silverman dated Kramer. And because remember,
That's right. She did date Kramer.
But anyway, regardless, somebody else will remember it. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. But they loved each other. And Jerry said, I finally found somebody that's perfect for me. And it's me. I want it because she did everything like him. And then by the end of the episode, he was like, I can't get married because I hate myself, and I don't want to be with myself. And they went to he said it was the first mutual breakup ever. They both went to that diner and they both said, I hate you. And then they were like, oh, so, okay. All right. Thanks. It's cool. And they left. That's what this feels like. Not that necessarily I hate you, but just they both went to the table and Zamir is like, how do I tell Alabama I don't want to be there anymore? And Alabama's like, how do we tell him we may be recruiting past him? And they both go, I want to break up at the same time. They're like, oh, this is great. All right, see you later. It's a mutually,
save that analogy at the end. I like that analogy at the end very much. I mean, that's probably not exactly what happened, but it's such a good, it's such a good and fun explanation. Let's keep that.
Let's hope that's what happened.
Let's keep that and just
okay.
Let's just
Speaking
make that
of
part
things,
of the historical record.
speaking of things that some people want to happen, and that some people wanting to happen is Ty Simpson being the quarterback. We don't think he'll be the starting quarterback at Alabama this year, but we're going to talk about him in a minute. Ty Simpson. If you want to go anywhere and in an Alabama group and you want to start a conversation, you're wondering, could I possibly break the ice? Should I talk about the Bear Bryant versus Nick Saban thing? What should I talk about here? Should I talk about is Alabama on the decline? Do we really think Kalen DeBoer is going to fit in? Should I talk about how much I still can't stand Mike Shula? No, just go and say Ty Simpson and watch everybody's antenna go up. It's just the way it is. And I like Ty Simpson a lot. Here's my hope, Jimmy, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I want everybody to hear it because we still, in these comments, get people going, y'all just don't like Jalen Milroe.
What?
Here's what I want from the bottom of my heart forever and ever and ever for this year. I want Jalen Milroe to be the quarterback at the University of Alabama. I want him to win a national championship, and I want him to win the Heisman Trophy. And I think all those things are attainable with the weapons he has, with the schedule he has, and with the coaching staff he has. I believe every one of them is attainable, and I want it to go down exactly like that. Yeah. And then I want Ty Simpson to be the quarterback, hopefully, the year after next, assuming that Keelan Russell doesn't come in and overtake him or whatever, or Austin Mack. I want it to be Ty Simpson. I want Ty Simpson to have his moment in the sun. I just don't want it to be this particular year. I want it to be year after this year.
Yeah, there's me and Luke agreeing every step of the way. I mean, I'm a big Jalen Milroe fan. I couldn't be happier for him. Couldn't be happier for Alabama that you have a talented kid like Milroe at quarterback. I'm with Luke. I think Alabama could win a national title with Milroe. He could win a Heisman. He could be a first-round pick. So I'm going to root for all those things to happen. At the same time, I couldn't be higher on Ty Simpson and his future. I think our quarterback situation in Alabama so much infinitely better than it was a year ago, largely thanks to Ty. In this sense, last year we weren't sure we had a good quarterback. Ends up by the end of the year, mid-year, Alabama did have a good quarterback, Jalen Milroe, and that was about it. But thanks to Ty's improvement that happened in season last year when he became QB2 after South Florida, got all the QB2 reps the rest of the year, Ty was a different kid by the end of the season. The Ty that I saw against Kentucky and UT Chattanooga was a Ty Simpson ready to play, maybe ready to be a starter in this league. And then he kept on improving per every account through the spring. And now I think Alabama's got two quarterbacks that can win in this league. Jalen Milroe, the well-deserved starter, and Ty Simpson, QB2. And I've got confidence in both of these guys. And I'm with Luke. I think Ty should be the starter in 2025 just because he's bided his time and gotten better and he's ready to be a good player. My comp for Ty in this situation, it reminds me of Mac Jones. And I think Ty and Mac have a lot of similarities, by the way. Now, Ty's a better pure athlete, bigger, stronger, certainly faster. But they remind me of each other personality-wise and how driven they are. They're very driven. And they have similar personalities. And y'all all might remember Mac in 2019 when he was Tua's backup, started giving us a little glimmers of hope. Like, this kid might be pretty good. Then he had to take over when Tua got hurt. He won that Michigan game, actually played pretty well at Auburn. He outplayed Bo Nix. Bo won the game. But I thought Mac played better than Bo Nix that night. And Bo Nix ended up being a first-round pick. Mac ended up being a first-round pick. I think Ty Simpson sort of setting himself up for Mac in 2020 equals Ty in 2025.
Fair. Now, that's very fair. Now, here's another thing. There are other people that think, well, Jalen Milroe just makes too many mistakes. I'm pulling for Ty Simpson to be the quarterback. And to those people, I say, did you see when Ty Simpson dropped the ball before the goal line against UT Chattanooga last year? And that –
performance against South Florida.
Well, you know what? His performance against South Florida was certainly not awesome.
It was over-criticized. It was over-criticized.
I feel like that would – whoever had been quarterback in that game, it was going to be a tough one because I feel like the mood in the locker room was so bad at that moment. So I'm not going to hold that particular game against any of the quarterbacks that played. even the one that went on to play lacrosse at Notre Dame and is now going to try out for wide receiver. I'm not going to do it. But, when I hate to put too much on one play against UT Chattanooga either, but here's my thing. That, like, we get it. We hate it, but I think we kind of understand if a wide receiver who hadn't played a lot drops the ball before he crosses the end zone, because they are showmen by nature. They almost have to be. As a wide receiver, you're either like a showman or you're a worker bee. Like Devontae Smith's not really a showman. He's got a nice little mix, but he's mostly a worker bee. Like I just go do my thing. I mean, that's what I do. He's had a couple of moments of showmanship, but for the most, Jerry Jeudy's kind of a showman. You remember that catch in the 2018 SEC championship game that Jalen Hurts threw to him in the corner? It was a great catch, but he stood up and he did his arms out like this, and I was like, the game's not over.
I don't like the diva term for wide receivers, but it's a common term, and I agree that Jerry Jeudy is more like the typical receiver, diva wide receiver. Devontae is more of the blue collar lunch pail guy.
My point being that we get it when those dudes drop the ball a little early sometimes, because that's sort of in their nature. When you're a showman, sometimes you're going to slip on stage.
Yeah.
But as a quarterback, when you drop the ball early, it's like, hey, you're the guy. You got to always be thinking. You've got to always be in the moment. And so with you doing that, it just dents my faith a little more than if a wide receiver had done it. Again, I'm a Ty Simpson fan. I want Ty Simpson to be Alabama's starter and lead us to the promised land in 2025. I just think that's when he should do it. I think this is going to be Jalen's year.
Yeah, I agree. And about Ty dropping that ball, look, I just compared Ty to Mac, and I said, there's a lot of similarities there. And I got booed when I said that on BOL. But look, hear me out. I realized Ty's a better athlete than Mac. But what I'm saying is not everybody knows their personalities, and maybe we're in a position to know their personalities a little more. Mac and Ty are both fiery. They're fiery guys. You saw Mac playing. How many times did Mac trash talk NFL defenders because he's fiery and he kind of loses it sometimes?
Yeah.
Ty is that guy too. And one of the good or bad sides to that is usually those guys are also pretty celebratory.
Yeah.
They're passionate. They have immediate hairpin reactions. And I think that's what Ty did. That's the bad side of his fiery side, his emotional side. He celebrated too soon, just like he might get upset quickly. And in that way, I think him and Mac are so similar. And I do think him and Mac's careers will have the same arc. Didn't play, had doubters, was a backup through year 3, explodes in year 4 and becomes a big thing.
Hey, their trajectory is the same in a lot of ways. And I mean, really, because if he's 2025, he's going to be starting on the road at Auburn, just like Mac did when he had his, first big road start. It's going to be a thing. Let me end this with one quick sort of 4th of July-esque story. That we're going to take July 4th off tomorrow. I mean, this one's technically this podcast for today and tomorrow, and then we'll be back July 5th. But I'm here at Orange Beach, and I went with our family and some other friends to Tacky Jack's, right? And we're just sitting there eating, and we're talking, and I'm Jimmy. This woman comes out of nowhere, like she just materialized. Sort of an older woman, looked like she lived in Orange Beach, whatever. She comes in, she just stares at me for a second. And I just knew, I was already like wiping my mouth, like, somebody's going to ask me, the host from Bama, let me go ahead and get my shaking arm out.
Was hot to his mother.
No, she said, it may have been. In fact, I used that line. But she said, are you military? At me. And I said, if I was thinking, I would have said, yes, it was the Salvation Army or something, but I wasn't. It was so off guard.
It's good.
And I said, I'm not. She was like, are you sure? I was like,
I think I would know.
And I guess I'll check my license, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. Just make sure I don't have military ID on me. And so it turned to this whole thing. I was like, she talked to us for like 10 minutes about how she saw me walk in And she said, you carried yourself like a military person would. I was like, you saw me walk in. Nobody's ever. I was like, if I was in the military, we'd have lost against Guam. I was like, you don't want me in the military. I was like, they were like, be an Army.
This observational skill set is lacking.
Don't ask, don't tell had nothing to do with sexual orientation. It was like, we don't ask Luke to join the military, and he don't tell us he's going to. That's what it was. That's the whole thing. And I was like, lady, I was like, I've heard a lot of stuff.
And you thought she was like, are you the host of Locked On Bama?
I swear to God.
Instead, she's like, are you a cadet in the Space Army?
And then I was like, part of me was worried because she stayed at our table for a while. And like the conversation was over. Like, are you in the military? No, I'm not. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. What, you carry yourself like the military. That's weird. Nobody's ever said that. Certainly nice to meet you. Jimmy, she stayed there.
She's still there.
Sort of hovered. And I was like,
she's still there?
We didn't know. She might still be there. We didn't know what to do as a group. We were all like, I tried, I did the fist bump, see you later. I tried it a few times. I was like, she's wearing my epidermis off. I'm fist bumping her so much to get her out of here. And, she did the hug thing.
Sounds like the What About Bob movie.
She kept telling my wife, I don't know. She's like, you're such a lucky lady. I was like, my parents don't tell her that. Why are you telling? All you've seen me do is walk into Tacky Jacks.
Your wife should have said, it had been my life's goal to marry Colonel Luke Robinson.
Well, that's what I said. I was like, I feel I might be Colonel Klink. I know nothing about the military, but it was just bizarre, man. Right here at the 4th of July, I was like, part of me should be. And so at the end, like Jimmy, it attracted attention. There were like several tables like that were watching this whole thing unfold. She was really loud. And then, of course, I was loud back, just trying to figure out the situation. My kids from Ohio, and they're like, what is going on, Dad? Like, you don't even watch the Army Navy football game most of the time. I'm like, I don't know. But when we left, everybody kept saying, thank you for your service. So anyway, all right.
Thank you for your service. You did serve tonight. That's for sure.
It was funny. But anyway, all right, buddy. Happy 4th, everybody out there. And until next time, roll tide.
Roll tide.